If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and today we're so excited to have with us Deborah Kattler Kupetz from Los Angeles, California. Deborah is living proof that not only green is good, but green is also glamorous. Welcome to Green is Good, Deborah.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Deborah, instead of Mike and I taking the next half hour to read your amazing bio, it's more fun for us to always at first ask our guests to share their journey with our listeners, both here in the United States and around the world, because there's so many young people out there that want to be the next Deborah, that want to follow in your footsteps and learn how you got to where you are today. So can you please just share with our listeners before we get going how you even came to this place, how you evolved professionally, educationally, and personally?
Yes, I would be happy to, and I'll just start off by saying that I'm having an unexpected career. It was not at all what I ever expected to be doing, and I started life as a clothing manufacturer, and I did that for over a decade. I worked 24/7, loved the industry, loved that world, thought that would be my life completely. And then for all sorts of things, economic changes across the country, stores closing, the market getting smaller, people going offshore, I kind of looked around and saw that this may not be the career that was going to, last my entire life. So I went back to school at night, and I got a master's in social work and a master's in gerontology, and simply because I thought they were really interesting. And I didn't know anything about those areas. They seemed the total opposite of what I had spent all my time doing. And at the same time, I got introduced to volunteerism, which may sound crazy to some people, but it was something I had never even considered when I was working.
Explain what you did with regards to volunteerism and what you've created in that journey, because that itself is so important.
I got involved in a program that was kind of like, look and understand the civics of Los Angeles. And I really didn't know anything about that. I didn't really know about local government. I wasn't interested at all. And every time I was in this program, it was called the New Leaders Project from the Jewish Federation. And again, it was completely random that I even signed up for that. But I thought it was fascinating. And through that, I had the opportunity to be involved in intra-community dialogues, and just something totally different from what I had been doing in clothing.
Interesting.
This was, of course, all after work, but I just found it very compelling, and through that I had the opportunity to get involved and be the founder of a literacy project in Los Angeles that is one of the largest existing literacy projects in LA today, and that was just a stunning opportunity. And then I was able to become a strategist for Mayor Reardon when he was in Los Angeles, when he founded the Los Angeles Literacy Corps, and it was just a really vibrant kind of addition to what I had been doing with work. And so my work life kind of migrated. But even though my work life was migrating, I still had a trend eye. I was an early adopter. I was just very aware of things kind of before they hit the mainstream. And I got involved with a couple of internet companies, which I loved and I was very passionate about. And they had to do with philanthropy. And I just kind of began melding all of my interests and my passions when I really wasn't sure where they were going. I was doing consulting. I was starting a family. And then I had a personal event in my life, and I knew when I was planning this event that I wanted it to be a green event. And at that time, this was around 2005, there were very few green resources. The country was already becoming eco-conscious when this was starting around 2005, but I quickly realized that for what I was planning, there was still a gap specifically in the event planning business, and it was an opportunity.
What kind of event was it? What kind of event were you doing?
It was actually my daughter's B'nai mitzvah.
Okay.
And it was just a really exciting time, and it was totally a private, personal passion, and it was just something that I knew that I wanted to do green.
Right.
I just knew that I wanted it to be green, and so I had really, I had the time and the opportunity to really indulge myself and create all sorts of things that didn't currently exist to make that happen. From invitations to tablecloths to decor to where food was sourced to just millions of things. Like, I really kind of did a deep examination of every aspect of how an event can be created. And it was very satisfying and very personally fulfilling and a great milestone in my family's life. And afterwards, and people obviously had a great time, and I combined the elements that were important to me at that time, which was social action, a sense of community, and then the environment. And so afterwards, a couple of friends asked me if I would help them with their events, and I really thought that was so funny. And I was also kind of offended because I thought, like, what do you think I am, a stupid party planner? Like, I'm not going to help you. Like, I did my event, you do your event. And it was kind of funny because I really saw that for them it was a complete struggle. It wasn't something that was joyous. It wasn't kind of uplifting or exciting. And after they kept asking, I really saw, like, okay, let me, I'll give you a hand. And when I did that, I just saw I was able to kind of hit their mark and just take it so much further and really go far with it. And I ended up doing 30 events after that, just the first year.
So was this all in 2005 where you
2005 was my big research year where I kind of like put everything together, and then this event happened in 2006, and then in 2006 I did all those events.
So when did you actually launch? And for our listeners out there, this is what Deborah does now, and she has a wonderful website that Mike and I are on, www.dkkevents.com. When did you then decide, wait a second, there is nobody else doing this?
After the second event.
Okay.
I mean, then I just saw, like, wow, I'm crazy about this. I find kind of an endless source of creativity, an endless well of collaboration, and, the people that I work with, just kind of bring me what their vision is. And sometimes people know what they want, if it's a 50th birthday, a 60th, a 70th, a wedding. Sometimes it will be like an organization's event. They'll have an idea, and then we kind of like ferment together, and then it just becomes so much more. And if they allow me to really kind of take it all the way, I mean, it can be something that really creates not only a memory for their audience or whoever they're trying to impact,
right,
but it can really create a shift in how people perceive things. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's like a physical way of representing yourself and creating a memory.
What I love here on your website here, which is a beautiful, I mean, for everybody, again, dkkevents.com. It's a beautiful website. I love how you sum it up, because being environmentally friendly doesn't mean you have to sacrifice style.
Right.
Explain, so really you're doing all right now. This is 2011. You're doing all sorts of, people call you for all sorts or types of events, big and small, and for all different types of occasions.
Yes, and I do consulting also, and I travel, so that part is very exciting too. I love that, and I love to strategize. I love the big vision, but of course, I'm all about the detail and the execution.
So let's talk about this. I mean, there's a lot to get to with regards to what goes into an event. Everything seems easy on the outside, but of course, like every other industry, once you start rolling up your sleeves and taking back the curtain, there's a lot that goes into it. Talk about second day events. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Okay,
so second day events, I started this in 2007, and this was because I started to do, I have a lot of high-end clients. I do a lot of high-end events.
Okay. What does that mean, though? What does high-end clients mean? Hollywood, or what is high-end, just wealthy?
It just means people with resources for their celebration. So maybe they're not limited by a particular budget.
Right.
And so we would do just these really incredible installations and create really beautiful events. And I started to feel that, maybe there was another opportunity. All this work, all this effort, events can have, weeks, months, hours going into them, and they're over in like 4 hours.
Right.
So I wondered if there was another way of looking at this, and so that's when I started Second Day Events, which is an event that makes use of the setup, the decor, and all the other myriad services involved in planning a large affair, and we're using some or most of these components for a second, more philanthropic celebration.
Wow.
So, for instance, with one family that I've been working with for a long time, they did a big private event on the night before Mother's Day, and the next day we flipped it, and we had about 1,800 people that were foster families over for an alternative Mother's Day event. And we've actually created that tradition, and they've been doing that every year since then. So
that's incredible.
It's a really powerful opportunity. And sometimes what's magnificent is that, if you look at photos from the first event, of course, that's a fabulous bash, and it's really, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's wonderful. But then you look at the population that's there the next day, a completely different population enjoying that same environment, and it's really powerful, and it's really profound.
So therein lies how your journey ties together everything that you've learned along the way: social action, environmentalism, and building community, because your events have facets of all of those.
Yeah. And
wow.
I think that, I think you can always, it's just as easy to add aspects of social action or thinking of others or twinning your event or your celebration with people somewhere else that, have an opportunity that you could kind of help them with, in a way that's not just a token, but it can really have a more, like a deeper ripple effect.
Wow. Okay. So now Mike and I are new potential clients, and we want to throw a party. Walk us through. We're a new client of DKK. And again, for our listeners out there, it's dkkevents.com to hire Deborah and her great services to green your event, not only in California, but she said she travels around. It could be anywhere else. Also, she consults and travels. So dkkevents.com. We're a new client. How do you plan a green event, Deborah?
Okay, well, first of all, I think it's great that you're interested in a green event, because at least half the people that work with me have no idea they're interested in a green event at first, and just kind of came to me because they saw something that I did that was cool. So we kind of have a conversation about what it is that you're celebrating, who the people are that you're bringing together, what it is that you want to impact or celebrate, and then we'll start kind of looking at all the elements. Are we going to do invitations that are electronic? Are we going to reuse material that, has a special aspect of you involved with it to invite or engage your guests? Do you want to do something instead of gifts that would just be, much more interesting, like have people contribute to a bench at a green conservancy near you? Or do you want to celebrate your birthday with someone in another part of the world who's celebrating a birthday, and you're actually paying for their birthday celebration because they're not in a position to do that? Do we want to do a local VOR menu where all the food is coming, within a 10-mile radius? Do we want to cook together? Do you want to, there's just thousands of things. How do we want to decorate it? Are we going to use hangers or cork or things that maybe, you're a basketball player, and so we're going to have all sorts of things collected and then, sent off to some boys' camp somewhere where they are in dire need of sports equipment. Just, on and on and on. So I really kind of do a very deep analysis of every single element, and we see how far we can go. And also, how many times can we extend the dollar? How far can that $1 go, so that there's kind of like not one single use of a dollar where it just stops?
So it's not only about, like you just said, sometimes you recycle the whole event to have a whole nother amazing purpose the next day, the next week, the next month.
It could be, yeah. And, I'll do an examination of rentals, too. Like, if we're going to rent X, Y, and Z for the party,
right.
What if we purchased something and then, donated it to a shelter afterwards? Like, would that make sense? Or
how cool is this?
Kind of look around and see what are the opportunities, what are the other things in your life that you care about that we can kind of fold into the celebration. And, it's not about being too serious in any way, because I love to have fun, and I think that the more personality you inject, the more surprising it is, and truly the more fun it is. Like, that's where people kind of begin to break down and experience life more, and are more open to receiving your message at your party or celebrating with you, and you kind of like switch the energy around.
That's what you're doing is amazing. We've never had anybody like you on our show before, and this is just amazing. Talk a little bit about the specific things that make an event green. Is it just the organic food? But as you said, then it could be the whole set that you've done. It could be the artwork. It could be the setting itself. And if someone calls you after this show, they hear you in New York, are you able to put on a green event in New York or Chicago or Miami, or by that matter in Shanghai? Is this something you're comfortable with?
Yes, I can. I mean, like I said, it's not like the world is kind of made for this yet, but
Right.
I do think that lots of things are moving in this direction. And, if anything, it just takes a lot of research, which I'm crazy about. I just find it really interesting. So I love to see what's available. A lot of times there's things that exist but just are not well promoted because, in the green space it's not necessarily just a profit-driven opportunity.
Right.
So, people ask, if being green is more expensive sometimes, and it isn't necessarily so. But the nature of my business is to reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Right.
And there's lots of areas where green costs a little bit more such as organic foods, but people realize that quality is also greater, and sometimes that's worth, the difference in price. But as far as materials, you can almost always find more interesting materials sometimes in different locations, and it isn't just one constant across the board. But of course, there's bamboo plates that are available internationally now, and they're a fabulous product.
Well, Deborah, when you begin the conversation with somebody that engages your service, and you start planning what is it you want to celebrate, what is it that you want to accomplish, and then you kind of lead them into the green conversation. Do you find sometimes that your clients, while they had sought you out without thinking green initially, find that they're bragging to their guests and the people that come to their celebration just about, hey, besides this being a really cool party, we're very environmentally friendly? You find that's part of the attraction afterward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's part of the discovery, and it's just like, people that don't want to be a vegetarian, but maybe they stop eating meat a couple times a week or whatever. I mean, this really is a journey, and people absolutely are excited. And I'm very respectful of people that are not on this page. I mean, I wasn't always on this page. I didn't have any awareness at all. I mean, there's some people that are always kind of conscious in this way. I mean, I definitely was not one of those people. So I've really enjoyed my process, and I can completely relate to someone who's not here and really isn't interested, and certain things are very much other priorities for them. But I feel like there's so many invisible ways I can make their event a little bit more easier on the earth, a little bit more respectful of all sorts of other things, and I can do this in invisible ways to them if they don't want to be very overt about it. And then for the people that are more comfortable being overt, there's all different kinds of things that we can do, and I do think that guests really enjoy it too, and they appreciate it because it feels different. It has a different impact.
Deborah, we're on your website, and here I'm just going to read to our listeners a little bit how many things you really cover, from graphics and invitations to blueprinting, program design, talent and entertainment, food and beverage, set design, lighting design, staging and rigging and recycling and security and rental. I mean, what goes into these events is incredible. Can you talk about a couple things, though? Talk about what is an alt event, first of all. We want to understand that. We want our listeners to understand what's an alt event.
Okay. So an alt event was really something that, I started to do these second-day events, and that was very exciting. And then an alt event was when I realized that, I could take any kind of holiday or any kind of opportunity and turn it into something more and something different. So, like I do something alt Father's Day, alt Mother's Day, and what that is really just an opportunity to kind of take any kind of day and enhance it with a philanthropic angle, or give it a deeper dimension. So instead of something just being like the commercial ownership of, let's say, Thanksgiving, or commercial ownership of you name any holiday, and it's so commercial.
Right.
Alt really gives you an opportunity to kind of own it yourself and do something that's communal based, and
that is so great,
and something connected with philanthropy. And so these alt events, like if you want an alt birthday, I think to me it just really means like we're taking a deeper look into what birthday means, and I'm going to have an alternative birthday, and here's what's alternative about it. I'm doing this for the community, I'm taking this social action, and these are just the basic tenets of an alt event.
That just is amazing. We're down to the last couple of minutes or so. Share with our listeners a little bit some of the amazing events that you've had over the last years that you're the most proud of. Just some highlights.
Well, I would say that there was an event that we did that was a studio head's celebration, and we made all the decor out of canned goods. And when we finished, it was really extraordinary because the way that the lights kind of flashed on the silver of the cans. When we donated the cans afterwards to the food bank, it was their singularly largest can donation that they had ever had in the history of the food bank. And I think that was really powerful. So that was something. And then for one event, we created really exquisite paper bag flowers that afterwards we had people beg us to pay for them to use as art installations in their homes. So these, something that was event decor that was made out of a recycled product to begin with and was just going to continue to be reused as event decor was then, installed in people's homes as design art. I thought that I got a big kick out of that. And we go into production on these every year, and the same thing keeps happening. So that's kind of fun.
Deborah, we're down to the last minute or so. What's the, and you're always welcome to come back on Green is Good because your story and journey are just amazing, as is your business model. What is in store and what is the next steps for DKK events, and where are you going to take this amazing business?
Well, I think what's next for me is the expansion of second day events and the branded alt events. So these events are celebrated in a conscientious but, an untraditional way. I'm really passionate about that. And just kind of getting that into the vernacular so that people consider when they're doing something to do an alt event. And I'm really passionate about the opportunities that technology brings us to so that people can realize and utilize things in different channels than maybe the traditional rental way that they get to provide things for the events that they have. So there might be another system that we can devise that can help people extend their opportunity for celebration. And I want to have a lot more fantastic experiences with great clients.
That is just wonderful. And like I said, we're at the end for today, but this is just going to be a continuing conversation. You're always welcome back here. For our listeners, please go and hire Deborah to do your next event wherever you are in California or in the United States or around the world. She consults, she travels. Go to www.dkkevents.com. Deborah Kattler Kupetz, you are a passionate environmental visionary and leader and truly living proof that green is good.
Thank you so much, Mike and John. I look forward to celebrating with you soon.